he was my when I was a graduate student. He was my professor, one of them. He was an assistant professor at the University of Chicago, and it's an exciting guy because he was interested in group behavior, and that was something that most psychotherapy students had not encountered. And even though he was not the first psychologist to be interested in groups, I mean, group dynamics goes all the way back to 1947 with Kurt Lewin and other people like that. But but he was tremendously interesting and gave us all an opportunity to think about the larger context in which we were working, because he was interested in organizational behavior and in leadership and other issues like that. But he particularly was interested in how small groups functioned. And so we got to look at those things because Tom was on the faculty. Otherwise, I think we would have missed that in those years. And then after he left the University of Chicago and came out to Pasadena to start his own practice in organizational consulting, and I actually joined him in that. He asked me if I would, and we formed Gordon and Farson Associates. And we only did 2 projects together, actually. We got a job with an outfit that wanted to build an electric barbecue. And so Tom asked me if I would work on this project, and they didn't know what to call it. And so I did a study where we tried to name the barbecue. And so I decided to go to different people and and give them a projective test to see how they really felt about barbecuing. And so we did. I got my father, who was an artist, to draw a sort of a TAT, thematic apperception test picture of kind of a vague picture of a fellow standing over a barbecue, a round barbecue, and then there was a silhouetted woman in the sort of kitchen, and she was standing at the doorway of the kitchen, looking out, and there were 2 little children nearby playing. And so, of course, a thematic apperception test, you ask the person to make up a story about, who is this, and what are they doing, and how does it work out, and so forth. Well, it was absolutely amazing to me, because you think of barbecuing as being something that is not only very social, but it's also very relaxing and pleasant and so forth. Well, there wasn't one story that wasn't told that just absolutely was so full of anger and fear and insult that it was always, a story would go something like this: that the guy is cooking, and the wife is looking out from the doorway, thinking, because you always ask, what are they thinking, and so she's thinking, I should be doing this. He doesn't know what he's doing. and then the guy would be very much afraid that he was going to lose his masculinity if he couldn't do this thing. And of course, he was wishing the kids were not around because they were in the way, and very much, and it just went on and on like that. And it was turned out to be full of anxiety. And you'd ask them, well, how does it work out? Well, finally, the corn on the cob falls into the ashes, and they all decide, what the hell, let's go out to McDonald's and get something to eat. I mean, that's believe it or not, that's a typical story I got from it. So what we realized is that the barbecue itself does not communicate relaxation. So you need you need a name for it. that would make it seem a little more comfortable. So we looked at a lot of different names, and finally we came up with the name Sunset Barbecue. And that turned out to be the name that they chose. And so we I don't know how it ever sold, but that was I had that fun. I did that study with Tom, and it was really more. I did it almost all by myself, but Tom had some pleasure in it too. But the other thing we did was we put on a conference in which we brought Carl Rogers out to Ojai, California, at the country club there, and we had a conference attended by a lot of people. And of course, they came to hear Carl, but Tom and I were on the program. And anyway, Tom went off, and this is all about Tom. But he went off and wrote this book called Parent Effectiveness Training, which I'm sure he had no idea that it would turn into this huge bestseller, and which it still is, and that just transformed everything about his life, and he's and then he did leadership effectiveness training, and he wrote other books, but mostly he started this program in which people got educated well, trained, I think he would say, in the skills of non-judgmental listening. And in fairness, I probably should say that I have altered my views about all that now, and I've had probably most of it by then. When I was in graduate school, Carl Rogers came up to me once and he said, I've been offered $400 to, which was not bad money in those days. This was 1953 or 4 or something like that. And he said, I've been offered $400 to give a talk and to write an article based on the talk. And he said, but I don't want to do the article. Would you do the article, and I'll do the talk, and I'll give you $300. Well, $300 to me, that was a lot of money. I was making $120 a month at the time as a research assistant, and so I said, sure, I'll do that. And so I wrote this article, and he said, you know what I'll be talking about. So I said, well, sure. So I wrote an article, and I called it Active Listening, which is the title that then introduced that term into the vernacular, into the lexicon of all the still used all the time now, active listening, and people don't even have any idea where it came from. But I don't mean that Carl never had anything to do with that article. He did edit it and taught me some things about writing that was helpful. But it was an interesting experience for me. But anyway, Tom liked the article very much.